Ta Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the quantum drive deep inside the Korean research vessel Moonlight Pioneer. The steady hum of the engine room had always brought him peace, but today something felt different. The air seemed heavier, and the machines whispered with an unusual tone. "Chief Engineer Kim, please report to the bridge immediately." The ship's speakers crackled with Captain Ji Lee's voice. There was an edge to her words that Ta had never heard before. He quickly packed his tools and climbed through the maze of corridors leading to the bridge. When the doors slid open, he found the entire bridge crew standing silent, their eyes fixed on the main viewing screen. "What's wrong?" Tai asked, but his question answered itself as soon as he looked up. A massive ship hung in Earth's orbit, its dark metal surface reflecting the sunlight like liquid mercury. It was at least 20 times larger than the largest vessel humans had ever built. Its design defied everything Ta knew about spacecraft engineering. There were curves and angles that shouldn't have been possible with any known material. "It appeared 30 minutes ago," Captain Lee said, her hands gripping the command chair's armrests. "No warning, no detection from our early warning systems. It just appeared." Han Park, the ship's weapons specialist, stood at his station with his fingers hovering over the defensive controls. "Captain, their energy readings are off the charts. Our weapons wouldn't even scratch their paint." Science Officer Sun Lee spoke up from her station, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "The ship's design matches nothing in our database. This is really happening." First contact. The massive screen flickered, and a face appeared that made everyone on the bridge take a step back. The alien had gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer like silk. Its 4 eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern, and when it spoke, its words were somehow perfectly translated into English. "People of Earth." The alien's voice boomed through the speakers. "I am Commander Cax of the Stellar Confederation. We have been watching your species for some time now. Your rapid technological advancement has caught our attention." Captain Lee stepped forward. "This is Captain Ji Lee of the research vessel Moonlight Pioneer. We welcome you in peace." Commander Cax's upper eyes narrowed. "Peace is earned, Captain. The Stellar Confederation has rules about accepting new species into our midst. We have seen too many violent races destroy themselves and others. Therefore, we issue you a challenge." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Kay's hand tightened around his tool belt. "A challenge?" Captain Lee asked, her voice steady despite the tension. "Yes, your species must prove its worth through a series of trials. Success will earn you a place among the stars. Failure." Commander Cax's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "Failure will result in your planet being placed under our direct control. For your own protection, of course." Sun Lee's console beeped urgently. "Captain, they're broadcasting this message worldwide. Every screen, every device, everyone on Earth is seeing this." "You have no right." Han Park started, but Captain Lee held up her hand. "What kind of trials?" she asked. 3 tests: combat, innovation, and survival. As the crew of the most advanced human vessel, you will represent your species." Commander Cax's 4 eyes fixed on Captain Lee. "Unless you wish to forfeit now." The bridge fell silent. Ta looked at his captain, saw the weight of humanity settling on her shoulders. But when she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "We accept your challenge." Commander Cax's expression didn't change, but there was a note of surprise in his voice. "Most species take time to debate such a decision." "We don't need to debate protecting our freedom," Captain Lee replied. "Very well. You have 72 Earth hours to prepare. We will transmit the detailed rules shortly." The alien's image flickered away, leaving the bridge in silence. Tai was the first to speak. "Captain, our quantum drive. I think I might have an idea." She turned to him, and for the first time since the alien ship appeared, a small smile crossed her face. "Good, because we're going to need every idea we can get. Sun, analyze that transmission. I want to know everything about their technology that you can learn from it. Han, Run combat simulations with every scrap of data we have on their ship. We need to understand what we're up against." The crew jumped into action, but Ty lingered for a moment, looking at the alien vessel through the viewing screen. In all his years of engineering, he had never seen anything like it. The way the hull seemed to flow like water, the impossible angles, the energy readings that defied physics as humans understood it. "Ty," Captain Lee's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Whatever idea you have about the quantum drive, make it happen. They may be more advanced, but that just means they're not ready for good old human ingenuity." He nodded and hurried back to his engine room. As he walked, his mind was already racing through possibilities. The aliens' technology was incredibly advanced, yes, but sometimes the simplest solutions were the most unexpected. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was finding simple solutions to impossible problems. Over the next few hours, the Moonlight Pioneer became a hub of frantic activity. Sun Lee's analysis revealed that the alien transmission contained traces of their computer language, a discovery that made her eyes light up with possibility. Han Park's combat simulations showed that while the alien ship was nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, it had unusual energy fluctuations during certain maneuvers. In his engine room, Ty worked tirelessly on the quantum drive. The experimental engine was humanity's greatest achievement in space travel, but now he was pushing it in ways its designers had never imagined. If his calculations were right, and they had to be right, he could modify it to do something the aliens would never expect. "Engineering team to the bridge." Captain Lee's voice came over the speakers again, 20 hours into their preparation time. When Tay arrived this time, the mood was different. There was still tension, but now it was mixed with determination. The bridge crew had been awake for nearly a day straight, but their eyes were bright with purpose. "Report," Captain Lee said, looking at each of her officers in turn. Sun Lee spoke first. "Their computer language is complex, but follows strict patterns. I've identified several potential vulnerabilities in their communication systems. Their ship's energy shield has a 0.03-second delay when they change configurations," Han Park added. "Not much, but it's something we can work with." "Ta." Captain Lee turned to him. "How's our quantum drive?" He took a deep breath. "Captain, I think we can use it to create a localized field that could, well, it could bend their laws of physics. Just a little. Just enough." The captain nodded slowly, taking in all the information. On the screen behind her, the alien ship loomed, its surface still rippling like liquid metal in the sunlight. But it didn't seem quite as intimidating now. "They think they're testing us," Captain Lee said quietly. "But they're about to learn something important about humans." She looked at her crew. "We don't just face challenges. We overcome them. We don't just solve problems. We find solutions no one else would think of. And when someone tells us something is impossible," she smiled, and there was steel in that smile, "well, that's when we prove them wrong." The crew straightened at her words. They had 48 hours left to prepare, and every minute would count. But as Ty headed back to his engine room, he felt something he hadn't felt since the alien ship appeared: hope. Because the aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed that superior technology meant an automatic victory. They had looked at humanity's relatively primitive ships and seen an easy conquest. What they hadn't realized was that they weren't just challenging humans to a contest. They were backing humans into a corner. And throughout history, that was when humans were at their most dangerous, when they had everything to lose, something to prove, and just enough time to get creative. As the hours ticked down toward the first trial, Ta smiled as he worked on his quantum drive modifications. The aliens were about to learn a very important lesson about challenging humans, and he had a feeling it was going to be a lesson they would never forget. The first trial was about to begin. The crew of the Moonlight Pioneer stood in what looked like an empty room aboard the alien vessel, but Captain G. Lee knew better. Commander Cax had called it a simulation chamber, though it was far more advanced than any simulation technology humans had created. The combat trial will test your ability to adapt, Commander Cax announced from an observation platform above. His 4 eyes gleamed with what looked like amusement. Your weapons specialist and engineer will face a series of combat scenarios. No actual harm will come to them, but the pain will feel very real. Han Park stepped forward, his jaw set firmly. Next to him, Ta Kim gripped the modified tool belt he had insisted on bringing. Captain Lee had argued with the aliens for an hour about letting him keep it, and won by citing the rules that allowed contestants to bring their standard work equipment. "Begin," Commander Cax said simply. The empty room transformed instantly. Han and Ta found themselves standing in what appeared to be a jungle battlefield. Strange creatures lurked in the shadows of massive trees, and the air was thick with an alien mist. "Stay close," Han said to Tai, pulling out the standard-issue stun weapon they had been allowed to bring. "Remember the plan." Their plan was simple, which was exactly why Captain Lee thought it might work. The aliens would expect complex strategies and advanced combat techniques. They wouldn't expect this. The first wave of creatures attacked. They were fast, 6-legged beings with razor-sharp claws. Han fired his weapon, but the creatures seemed barely affected by the stun blasts. That's when Todd pulled out what looked like a simple wrench from his tool belt. "Ready?" he asked, grinning. Han nodded. "Ready." Todd pressed a hidden button on the wrench. It began to vibrate at the exact frequency he had calculated from the alien ship's energy readings. When the next creature leaped at them, Tai swung the wrench. The beast froze in midair, caught in a localized disruption field. From the observation platform, Commander Cax leaned forward. This was not what he had expected. "How?" one of his officers asked. "They've somehow adapted their primitive tools to interact with our simulation technology," Cax replied, his voice tight with surprise. "Impossible. They had only 3 days." Back in the simulation, Han and Ta worked together like they had practiced. Han would herd the creatures into position, and Ta would catch them in his disruption fields. It wasn't elegant, but it was working. The simulation shifted. Now they were in what appeared to be an alien city under siege. Flying drones filled the sky, firing energy beams at them. "Phase 2, Han shouted. Ta pulled out what looked like a simple mirror from his tool belt, but this mirror had been carefully crafted in the ship's workshop using data from Sun Lee's analysis of alien energy patterns. When the drones fired, Ta held up the mirror at precisely the right angle. The energy beams reflected back, taking out the drones with their own weapons. In the real world, Sun Lee worked frantically at a console they had been provided for monitoring purposes. What the aliens didn't know was that she had found a way to send coded messages through the system using the patterns she had discovered in their computer language. "Captain," she whispered, "I'm in their simulation system. It's all based on expected responses. It's looking for specific patterns of behavior. Anything outside those patterns," Captain Lee smiled, "causes the system to adapt. Keep watching. Tell me if you see any signs of overload." The simulation changed again and again. Each time, Han and Tai faced new challenges with their seemingly simple tools that were actually pieces of hybrid technology Ta had created by combining human engineering with what they had learned about alien tech. "This is not possible," one of Cax's officers said. "Their technology level is too primitive for this level of adaptation." But it was happening. Hour after hour, Han and Tai survived every scenario thrown at them. They weren't just surviving. They were excelling, using methods that made the alien observers increasingly agitated. Finally, the simulation reached its final phase. Han and Ta found themselves in what appeared to be the bridge of an alien warship. Enemy combatants surrounded them on all sides. "Any ideas?" Han asked, his breath coming in short gasps. Ta looked around, then smiled. "The ship's design. It's just like their real ships. Remember what I told you about their power distribution?" Han's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yep." Ta pulled out his last tool, a simple electrical probe that he had modified with his understanding of alien power systems. "Think they'll expect this?" Before the simulated enemies could attack, Todd jammed his probe into what looked like a decorative panel on the wall. The entire simulation flickered as he introduced a power surge that shouldn't have been possible with such a primitive tool. In the real world, Sun Li's console lit up with warnings. "Captain, they're doing it. The system is trying to compensate for actions it wasn't programmed to handle." The simulation room's walls flickered and faded, leaving Han and Tai standing in the empty room again. Above them, Commander Cax's officers were frantically working at their controls. "Stop," Cax commanded, his voice carrying an emotion that hadn't been there before. "The combat trial is complete." Captain Li stepped forward. And the result? Cax was silent for a long moment, all four eyes blinking in an irregular pattern. "Your crew has passed. Though I must note that your methods were highly irregular." "Irregular?" Han laughed, still catching his breath. "We call it thinking outside the box. A box which you apparently expected us to stay inside of," Captain Li added. "I hope this helps you understand something about humans, Commander. We don't just use the tools we're given. We reshape them. We don't just follow paths. We make new ones. And we certainly don't fight the way you expect us to fight." Ta was already examining his tools, making small adjustments. "The real question," he said without looking up, "is whether you're ready for the innovation trial. Because if you think this was irregular," he smiled, "you haven't seen anything yet." Commander Cax stood abruptly. "You will have 6 hours to rest before the innovation trial begins. I suggest you use it wisely." As they were escorted back to their ship for the rest period, Sun Li fell into step beside Captain Li. "Captain," she whispered, "while monitoring the simulation, I found something interesting in their systems. Something they probably didn't want us to see." "Oh." "They've run these trials 17 times before, with different species. Every single species approached the combat trial the same way, trying to overpower the scenarios with pure military might." Captain Li nodded slowly. "And we're the first to try something different." "More than that," Sun said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We're the first to even think of analyzing their technology and adapting it. The others all just accepted that it was beyond them." "Well then," Captain Li said as they reached the Moonlight Pioneer, "let's make sure we keep surprising them. Han, get some rest. Tai, I want you and Sun working on whatever you can put together for the innovation trial. Something tells me they're going to be watching us much more carefully now." As they split up to prepare for the next trial, Tai couldn't help but smile. The aliens had expected them to act like every other species they had tested. Instead, humans were showing them something new: creativity, adaptability, and the ability to turn seemingly primitive tools into game-changing advantages. The innovation trial was next, and if there was one thing humans were good at, it was innovating when the pressure was on. As Tai headed to his workshop with Sun, his mind was already racing with possibilities. The aliens thought the combat trial was irregular. They hadn't seen anything yet. 6 hours of rest had passed quickly. Now the crew of the Moonlight Pioneer stood in a vast chamber aboard the alien ship, facing their second trial. The room was filled with pieces of alien technology scattered across multiple workstations. Commander Cax's voice echoed through the chamber. "The innovation trial is simple. Before you are broken pieces of advanced technology. Your task is to repair them and make them work together. You have 4 hours." Sun Li studied the nearest workstation, her eyes wide with excitement. "These aren't just broken," she whispered to Ta Kim. "They're from different technological eras. It's like asking someone to make a smartphone work with parts from an old radio." Captain Ji Li stepped forward. "What are the rules regarding our own equipment?" "You may use any tools you brought with you," Cax replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. After the combat trial, he had clearly adjusted the rules to prevent more irregular solutions. But humans were good at finding new ways to be irregular. Tai pulled out his tool belt and smiled. "Captain, remember how we modified the quantum drive?" She nodded. During their rest period, they hadn't just rested. They had prepared. Begin, Cax announced. The crew split into teams. Sun and Tad took the most complex pieces, while Han Park focused on what looked like weapon components. Captain Lee moved between groups, coordinating their efforts. "Look at this," Sun called out after 30 minutes. She held up what appeared to be a power core. "The technology is amazing, but the principles are the same. Energy is energy, whether you're on Earth or in deep space." Ta nodded, already connecting wires from his modified tools to the alien tech. "They think we need to understand how it all works. But we don't. We just need to understand what it does." From the observation platform, Commander Cax watched with growing concern. Previous species had always tried to learn the technology first, spending hours just studying the components. These humans were playing with it, like children with new toys. "They're going to destroy those components," one of his officers said. But they weren't destroying anything. Somehow, they were making progress. 2 hours in, Sun made a discovery that made her laugh out loud. "Captain, these parts, they're not really broken." "Explain," Captain Lee said, coming to her station. "They're in perfect working order. They're just locked. It's a test within a test. They wanted to see if we'd waste time trying to fix something that isn't broken." Ta looked up from his work. "So instead of repairing, we need to unlock," Sun finished. "And I think I know how. Remember that computer language pattern I found during the combat trial?" She pulled out a small device she had built during their rest period. It was made from spare parts from the Moonlight Pioneer, but it had been programmed with everything she had learned about alien computer systems. "Han," she called out, "remember that energy fluctuation you noticed in their shields? What if it wasn't a flaw? What if it was a key?" Han's eyes lit up. "A key that needs the right frequency to turn it." The next hour was a blur of activity. Instead of trying to repair broken technology, they worked on finding the right frequencies to unlock the components. Tay's modified tools provided the power, Sun's device provided the key, and Han's combat experience helped them understand the security systems. 3 hours into the trial, they had unlocked most of the components, but making them work together was proving harder. "Time is running out," Captain Lee said, watching the alien chronometer on the wall. "Ideas?" Ta stepped back from his workstation and looked at all the pieces they had unlocked. Then he smiled. "They're testing the wrong thing." "What do you mean?" Han asked. "They think this is about making alien tech work with alien tech. But what if?" He pulled out the quantum drive modifier he had brought with him. "What if we make it work with human tech instead?" Sun's eyes widened. "That's crazy. It's brilliant, but it's crazy." "Exactly," Captain Lee said. "Do it." The final hour was intense. They connected the alien components to their own modified equipment, creating a hybrid system that shouldn't have worked, but did. When the time ran out, they had built something unique, a device that combined alien and human technology in ways neither civilization had imagined. Commander Cax's voice was tight when he spoke. "Demonstrate your creation." Ta stepped forward and activated the device. A holographic display appeared above it, showing a complete schematic of the alien ship. But there was something different about this display. It showed things the aliens themselves hadn't noticed. "Your ship's beautiful," Ta said, pointing to various parts of the display. "But you've got energy inefficiencies here, here, and here. With some simple modifications, you could increase your power output by 30%. The alien observers erupted in shocked whispers. Commander Cax leaned forward, all 4 eyes fixed on the display. "How?" he demanded. "How did you not only unlock the components but improve upon them?" "Because we didn't try to think like you," Captain Lee explained. "We thought like us. You see technology as something that must follow certain rules. We see it as something that can always be improved, combined, and reimagined. Your methods are irregular," Han suggested with a grin. "Impossible," Cax finished. "You shouldn't be able to combine such different levels of technology." Sun stepped forward. Actually, that's exactly what humans do best. We take things that shouldn't work together and make them work anyway. Our entire civilization is built on combining old ideas in new ways. The aliens were silent for a long moment. Finally, Commander Cax spoke again. You have passed the innovation trial. Though I must note that once again, you have done so in a way that defies all our expectations. Get used to it, Captain Lee said firmly. Because the survival trial is next, and if there's one thing humans are really good at, it's surviving. As they were escorted back to their ship for another rest period, the crew could feel the change in how the aliens looked at them. The contempt was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like worry. They're starting to understand, Ta said as they walked. But they still don't get it completely. Get what? Han asked. That every challenge they give us just makes us stronger. They think they're testing us, but they're really just teaching us about their technology, their methods, their weaknesses. Captain Lee nodded. And the survival trial will be the hardest test of all. Not for us. For them. Because they're about to learn the most important lesson about humanity. What's that? Sun asked. When everything is on the line, when we're faced with impossible odds. The captain smiled. That's when humans become truly unstoppable. The crew retired to prepare for the final trial. But there was a new energy among them. They had passed 2 trials in ways the aliens never expected. The survival trial would be the hardest yet, but they were ready. Because now they weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting to show the universe exactly why you never, ever challenge humans. The final trial was about to begin. The crew of the Moonlight Pioneer stood on their bridge, facing the massive alien ship through the main screen. This time, there would be no simulations, no controlled environments. This was real. The survival trial is simple. Commander Cax's voice came through the speakers. Your ship against ours. You must survive for 1 hour while we hunt you through the solar system. If you escape or survive until the time limit, you win. If we capture or destroy you, you fail. Captain Ji Lee sat in her command chair, her expression calm. And if we win all 3 trials, then humanity will be recognized as equals by the Stellar Confederation. If you fail, Earth becomes our protectorate. Cax paused. I must admit, your species has surprised us. But this trial has never been passed. Not once in 10,000 years. First time for everything. Ta Kim said from his engineering station, his hands already dancing over the controls. You have 5 minutes to prepare, Cax announced. Use them wisely. The moment the communication ended, Captain Lee activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, battle stations. This is what we've been preparing for. Sun Lee's fingers flew across her science station. Captain, I've loaded all the data we gathered about their ship into our systems. Their technology is amazing, but they rely on it too much. They'd forgotten the basics. Explain, the captain ordered. They've evolved beyond simple physics. They don't think about things like momentum or gravity anymore. Their technology handles it all automatically. Han Park grinned from the weapons console, which means they won't expect us to use it against them. Exactly, Tai added. Remember how we modify the quantum drive? It doesn't just bend space like their drives. It bends the basic forces of nature. Captain Lee nodded. Time to show them why humans are the masters of using simple solutions to solve complex problems. Are we ready? The crew responded with confident affirmatives. On the main screen, a countdown timer appeared. 5 minutes became 1 minute. Then 30 seconds. 10. 5. Begin, Cax's voice boomed. The alien ship immediately fired a massive energy beam at the Moonlight Pioneer. But the human ship was already moving, using a maneuver that looked like a mistake. They're diving toward the sun. One of Cax's officers shouted. Their shields will never survive the heat. But Ta had been busy during their preparation time. The Moonlight Pioneer's shields weren't just blocking the heat, they were absorbing it, using Sun's discoveries about alien energy patterns to convert solar radiation into power. 20% power boost, Tai reported with a grin, just like we planned. The alien ship followed them, its superior engines quickly closing the gap. But that was exactly what the humans wanted. Now, Captain Lee ordered. Tai activated his modified quantum drive. Space bent around them in ways that the alien sensors couldn't understand. To their computers, the Moonlight Pioneer seemed to be in 3 places at once. Impossible. Cax's voice showed genuine emotion for the first time. Their primitive technology can't. That's your problem, Captain Lee replied over the comm. You keep thinking about what we can't do. You never stop to think about what we can do. The Moonlight Pioneer shot past the alien ship, using the sun's gravity like a slingshot. But they had added their own twist. The quantum drive's effect on gravity meant they picked up far more speed than the aliens expected. Their velocity is beyond their structural limits. An alien officer shouted. No, Sun said, even though they couldn't hear her. It's beyond what you think our structural limits are. We've been reinforcing the ship ever since you arrived. For 40 minutes, the battle continued. The Moonlight Pioneer didn't try to outgun the alien ship. They couldn't. Instead, they used every trick, every crazy idea, every bit of physics and improvisation they could think of. They skimmed the surface of Venus, using its atmosphere to create a plasma wake that confused alien sensors. They scattered debris from an asteroid, not as weapons, but as a million tiny mirrors to reflect and scatter enemy targeting systems. 15 minutes remaining, Sun announced. But we're running out of tricks. Captain Lee leaned forward in her chair. No, we have one more. The one they'll never see coming because it's too simple. She opened a channel to the alien ship. Commander Cax, I have a question. In all your years of testing other species, how many ever tried to actually damage your ship? There was a pause. None. It would be futile. Our technology is perfect, Lee finished, which means you never bothered to install simple backup systems. Everything depends on your advanced technology working perfectly. Tay's eyes widened as he understood. Captain, you don't mean. I do. Remember what you said about their power distribution. How it's so perfect it never fails. Han Park laughed as he caught on. Which means they never planned for it to fail. Son, remember that frequency we found during the innovation trial? The one that unlocks their systems, Sun said, already working at her console. But we'd have to get very close to use it. Then let's get close, Captain Lee ordered. Tai, give us everything the quantum drive has. Han, prepare the signal. Sun, calculate the exact frequency. We have one shot at this. The Moonlight Pioneer turned and flew straight at the alien ship, not trying to hide, not trying to be clever. Just a straight, simple charge. What are they doing? Cax demanded. Their weapons cannot harm us. Who said anything about weapons? Captain Lee replied. At the last moment, Tai activated the quantum drive at full power. Space bent around them in a way that even the aliens' advanced sensors couldn't track. They appeared literally inside the alien ship's shields. Now, Lee ordered. Sun broadcast the unlocking frequency. Han transmitted the power surge. And Tai used his modified tools to do something so simple it was brilliant. He turned off the alien ship's power. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the alien ship's systems went dark. Their perfect technology, their advanced systems, all went quiet. What? What have you done? Cax's voice was barely a whisper. We won, Captain Lee said simply. Your ship will reset in about an hour. More than enough time to declare the trial complete. There was a long silence. Finally, Cax spoke again, but his voice was different, respectful, maybe even a little afraid. In 10,000 years, no species has ever. How did you even think to? Because we're human, Lee replied. We don't just think outside the box. We take the box apart, rebuild it, and use it for something it was never meant to do. That's who we are. That's what we do. The timer hit 0. The trial was over. Humanity had won. Hours later, after the alien ship had restored power and formal ceremonies had been conducted, Commander Cax stood before the crew of the Moonlight Pioneer. "You have not just passed our trials," he said. "You have changed them forever. Your species will be welcomed into the Stellar Confederation, not as subordinates, but as equals. Perhaps," he paused, all four eyes blinking rapidly, "perhaps even as teachers." "Teachers?" Han asked. "Yes, you have shown us something we had forgotten. That true advancement comes not from perfect technology, but from the creativity to use what you have in new ways, from the courage to try impossible things, from the wisdom to see that simple solutions can solve complex problems." Captain Lee stepped forward. "Then let me teach you one final lesson, Commander. The most important thing about humans. Yes. Next time you meet a new species, don't challenge them. Invite them. Work with them. Learn from them. Because every species has something to teach, if you're willing to learn." As the alien ship prepared to depart, carrying news of humanity's victory to the Stellar Confederation, Ta stood at his engineering station, making one final adjustment to the quantum drive. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "they thought they were testing us. But really they were just showing us how much more we can do, how much further we can go." Captain Lee smiled. "That's another thing about humans, Ta. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every test makes us better. And now," she looked at the stars on the main screen, "now we have a whole universe to explore." "And improve?" Sun asked with a grin. "And improve," the captain agreed. "After all, that's what humans do best." The Moonlight Pioneer turned toward Earth, its crew tired but proud. They had done more than win a contest. They had shown the galaxy exactly why you never challenge humans. Because humans don't just face challenges. They overcome them. They don't just solve problems. They revolutionize solutions. And they never, ever give up. The universe would never be the same. And that was exactly how humans liked it.